guys, welcome back to the floor of my living room. You read the title. In today's video, I'm going to take you through my top 25 reads of 2025 plus 2 honorable mentions because I am nothing but an indecisive Libra at the end of the day. Grab a snack, get comfy, and let's get into it. Also, if you can hear my radiator gently, graciously tinkling behind me, I hope you can. I feel like I filmed for a second and tried to listen, and maybe it's just because it was going in my ear at the same time I was listening, and I was like, I really don't think it's noticeable, so I hope it's not, because I am going to continue. And if not, I hope it's like a nice ambiance. Maybe ASMR, I don't know. Let's start off with a little recap. No, the burning question I know you're all asking, I did not finish my reading goal for 2025. I felt a little bit crushed and a little bit like impending doom vibes towards the end of the year, aka yesterday when it was New Year's Eve. But today, being New Year's Day, I'm having this epiphany where suddenly I don't feel behind anymore because it's already the first of the year and now I feel ahead. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of glad that I don't have to feel like I'm failing at a goal anymore. It's just like a clean slate. I did read more than I did in 2024. I read the most I've ever read in my entire life. That was incredibly exciting. My goal for the year was 50 total reads, 40 books and 10 plays. Back when I started really getting into reading in 2023, I had a reading goal of 5 books for the year. I ended up completing 21 books. I decided every year after that I was going to increase my goal by 10. Last year's goal was 30 and I was able to reach that. Unfortunately, I only ended up reading 33 books out of the intended 40 that I had for this year, but that's still 3 more books than last year. I also read 8 out of the 10 plays that I had intended to read this year as well. 41 books is still more total reads than I had last year combined, just wasn't quite the 50 that I wanted. These are also in no particular order, changes all the time. So this isn't a set in stone list, but I am gonna go from my least favorites to my favorites of the year. First, to start off with the honorable mention, Sight Unseen by Donald Margulies. This was a play that I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really like plays that have meaty dialogue. I love when characters are not afraid to talk about what's going on. Even if they don't have confrontation in the play, I just like when they have a lot of dialogue that shows you who they are instead of just having like a ton of subtext. Subtext is fine and it's fun and it has its place. It's basically about a Jewish American painter who is famous. His name is Jonathan Waxman. All of his paintings now go for ungodly amounts of money without even being created yet. They're basically being sold sight unseen. He travels to England, spends the night with his former girlfriend that he had in college, aka his muse, and her current husband. It just talks a lot about artistic integrity, the meaning of art, the commodification of it. I wanted to mention it in there because it's one of the better plays that I read this year. And then I wanted to briefly mention Hera by Jennifer Saint, which is a book that I gave 3.75 stars. I read it in my Reading a Book for Every Color of the Rainbow reading vlog. This definitely wasn't my favorite book by Jennifer Saint, but I love Greek mythology so much that I just wanted to mention it. I don't feel like this will be a hit for everybody. Again, it wasn't even really a hit for me. I just love a Greek mythology story. I love the whimsy of it all. I love how everything has a purpose or a person who is responsible for it. There was a rumor that went around about Hera and Zeus, and it was started from the house of Feme and the goddess of the rumor herself. In the morning, I don't remember his name, but like somebody pulls the sun across the sky in a little chariot, and then when the moon comes out, the moon goddess drags the moon and the stars across the sky, and that's how night happens. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a little bit depressing, as I did mention in that video, because it is so many instances of a woman being wronged. Like Hera is put through the ringer consistently, and that's why her story is being told, because Jennifer Saint does feminist retellings of classic Greek mythology stories, centering the women who we may not know a lot of or have been predominantly cast in a negative light. Definitely has its place in this lineup. It just didn't quite make it into the top 25. The first book that I want to mention, Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I also read this in the same reading vlog that I did Hera. This I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember too much about it. I did read it in 2 days because I was super anxious to finish that reading vlog. But what I do remember is Miles. If you want a male main character whose love language is acts of service, this is the book for you. Our FMC Lenny is grieving her best friend who recently passed away from cancer. She is very down on her luck, can't really hold a job. She somehow happens upon a babysitting gig for this child named Ainsley and her mother Reese. The very first day that she is over there meeting Ainsley, getting acclimated into the household, she meets Ainsley's grumpy uncle, Miles. A book happens to fall out of her bag on the first day that they meet that says like 10 ways to deal with grief or something like that. And essentially the premise of this book is that Miles asks for her help. He says, hey, you are really good with my niece Ainsley. They're the only 2 family members I have left in this world. I desperately need and want to connect with them. I will help you accomplish this live again list, which is something that she created with her best friend before she passed away as a way to be able to carry on and live in her memory. The ways that he's able to open Lenny up through her grief, honestly, get her to heal on her own terms was wonderful. There's so much growth that he encourages from her by setting her up for success, but then ultimately stepping away and being like, you need to make this move on your own because you can't depend on someone else, take you out of this life slump and make you love again. There were some things that I didn't love about it. There was a little bit of like infantilization of our main character that I wasn't loving. I don't even really think it was purposeful. I just felt like some of her tendencies were pretty childish, but this is a very wonderful, heartfelt read. The next book that I want to talk about, Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I gave this a 3.75 stars. This is a young adult fantasy enemies to lovers romance. This is basically about a witch and a witch hunter, dual POV. This book is essentially one big game of cat and mouse because they're fake dating, fake courting each other for different reasons. They are onto each other the whole book. I will say the characters do figure out things too quick for my liking. Like there's never really a mystery going on about like, oh, will they figure this out? Won't they figure this out? But I thought the circumstances were really fun that these characters had to go through. And I'm very excited to read the second book. It is a duology called The Crimson Moth Duology. The next book that I want to talk about, it's a love story by Annabelle Monaghan. This was my second book by her. The first of which being Nora Goes Off Script, which I think I gave a 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed that one. This one I gave a 3.5 stars. I didn't overly connect to the characters, but I had a really great time reading it. It was super fast to get through, and there is a lot to like about this book. I love that it is set kind of in the realm of Hollywood, same with Nora Goes Off Script. Our main character, Jane Jackson, used to be a child star at a very famous sitcom, where her role was to play like the quirky, comedic sidekick character. That basically caused her to grow up with a lot of insecurity issues because she never saw herself as like a leading lady. She never saw herself as the one in charge, just aiding the story in the background. Now that she's grown up, she is a screenwriter trying to get her very first project greenlit. Our MMC here, Dan Finnegan, is the cinematographer that she kind of enlists to help her get this project made. She basically has a script that comes across her desk. She falls in love with it. She can't even really explain why, but she just knows that she needs to make it. But the thing about her relationship to Dan, they had a first date situation in the past. He called one of her previous projects trash. As somebody that suffers with insecurity issues, this does not go very well for her. She now thinks that he is arrogant, he is cocky, he's a jerk. The thing I really love about his character is that he really is the opposite to her in every single way. She's the epitome of like depression can't hit a moving target. She always has to move a million miles a minute in order to avoid sitting and dealing with all the things that she doesn't want to think about. Dan is very calm, level-headed, he's sure of himself, knows his dreams and his plan for his life, and doesn't want to stray from that. I also love the family aspect of this. They end up having to go to Dan's family home, and he has like a million brothers with a million children running around the house. A lot of their dialogue scenes were very funny. It was very sweet the way that his parents were able to like open her up a little bit because she has sort of a rocky relationship with her mom. She doesn't have a dad in the picture at all. This is a wonderful beach read that I really enjoyed, and I love how Annabelle Monaghan's stories always have protagonists that are in their 30s, 40s. I just like the era of their life that they're kind of struggling through in their careers, just their personal lives, some of them married, if they're not married, you know, all of that stuff. In Nora Goes Off Script, she has a child. I don't know why I mentioned that, but like, I don't know, maybe if you have a child, you'll like to read that. The next one that we have, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, another book that I gave 3.5 stars. I thought it had spectacular summer beach read vibes. I think I like the settings of it and the overall tropes of it a little bit more than this one. It is a past and present timeline book. We get to meet Sam and Percy when they're 14, and we basically get to see them every summer after they met until they're in high school and something happens to sort of break up the friendship. In our present day, our main character Sam is forced to come back to Barry's Bay after she hasn't been there in like 10-12 years with the people that she left behind. I'm just a big sucker for like a young love, first time trope, first kiss, first love. I think I like that one a little bit more. Number 21 on this list, I have a book that I read in February of 2025 that, thinking back on, I actually really want to read this again. I think the premise is wonderful. P.S. I Hate You by Lauren Connolly. So the little line in the front here says 2 X's, 8 destinations, love travels fast. This is essentially about our main character, Maddie Sanderson. At the beginning of this book, she's actively at the funeral for her brother, who is like the most important person in her life. She has a very rocky relationship with her mother. Don't remember what the situation with the dad is, but essentially the person that she is closest to was her brother. She's at the funeral, literally in a coat closet, toiletry closet, something or other, hiding out from this man named Dominic Perry, and also doing something for work, I think. I don't really remember. Dominic Perry was her brother's best friend. The shared history between these two. He is the love that she has always wanted. She overheard him literally proposing to his high school sweetheart, where he later went on to marry her. She does not want to be around this man because he brings up way too many hard feelings. She just thinks that he's like the biggest jerk on planet Earth. At the funeral, her brother had written letters to each one of his family members. His wish for her was to spread his ashes in 8 different locations that he didn't get to make it to on his bucket list because he was a very adventurous person with Dominic Perry. So it's like forced proximity between these two people carrying out her brother's last dying wish. I remember swooning for Dominic Perry. I loved that we kind of had to travel across the world for this book as well. I thought there was a lot of fun locations in this. This was my book club's pick for the month of February, and I remember a lot of the critiques being that our FMC was a little bit childish. I didn't mind it because it was very obvious that this girl was in the throes of grief, desperately needed to seek therapy, didn't, and just like really was acting out because she doesn't know how to handle handle it. Some people can either excuse that behavior or they can't. I personally found that it was justifiable. Maybe not like justifiable. I didn't love all of her actions. There's actually something in like the third act conflict that I thought was very irredeemable of her that they never really addressed, and I was kind of like, oh my god, I would have been pissed if you did that to me. I thought it was very obvious that it was a person acting out of severe hurt. This was really good. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Book number 20, I don't actually have a physical copy of this because I read the digital arc of it on NetGalley. As a Last Resort by Kristen Willett. I actually do want to get a physical copy of this because I remember liking it so much. I only gave it a 4 stars, but it was a really, really, really good time. It has such good small town beach vibes. It's set on this little island in Florida. Don't remember what it's called. It's like a small town island that you have to ferry to, and guess who the MMC is, right? He is a ferry boat captain named Austin. Oh my god. Also, this is best friend's older brother vibes. Are we sensing a theme here? She is like a real estate developer who has to go back to the town island that she grew up on because she is trying to spearhead a project to figure out where a new line of resorts should go. I believe she's trying to go back incognito because there is a person that she left back on the island, her mother, who is an alcoholic. She's had a very rocky childhood growing up, basically having to be the parent for her own mother. So it just puts her back in a very bad mental state. She's trying to avoid it at all costs while she is there, but she does happen to bump into Austin. One thing I do remember is that the MMC does fall first. Hey, didn't know that was something I desperately needed, which is so stupid because like when I think of he falls first trope, I think of Peeta Millar, and obviously that's an OG. It's also dual POV, which was really great because the way that he talked about her in his inner monologue, the way that he admired her was the way that every person deserves to feel seen by their significant other. So endearing. And one of the very cool things about this is that Kristen Willett is not only an author, this was her debut novel, but she is an actress as well. And I thought that that was very prevalent in the dialogue of this book where the characters weren't afraid to like say what they were thinking and then just have to like sit in the discomfort of that. She just didn't really shy away from that, which is something that I really liked. We got to see the conflict play out in real time. He deals with issues of like the way he's seen by his parents, not living up to his potential or just like trying to forge his own path, but he is a little sweet pie. Moving on, book number 19, we have Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoy anything in the Wicked Games duology. So this, oh wait, little slip up there. I just said Wicked Games duology, but Kaylee Smith recently unveiled on Instagram that there is a 3rd book coming out that has to do with the brother or one of the brothers in this book. There's like 18,000 named Seven. The cool thing about these books is that they are interconnected standalone, so you don't need to read Phantasma in order to read this one. I think it would definitely be helpful. The main character of this book, Genevieve, is the first book's sister. It's not just kind of like a random friend that was a side character, so a lot of like where she comes from in her abandonment issues all directly stems from her home life, which we learn a little bit more about in the first book. When I did read this one, I didn't remember a damn thing about Phantasma. That's a lie. I remembered a lot about it, but like some of the things that she mentioned in this, I just had to accept at face value because I didn't really remember them coming up in the first book either. So I'm torn between saying you should read the other one or you could just go in blind. I don't know. I will say Phantasma is a little bit more exciting plot-wise. I liked that one a little bit more. Phantasma, it was like a yearly deadly competition. Once you enter in, the only way to get out of a level is to die in the middle of the level or sell your soul to one of the devils, where you are then forced to be in the game for the rest of eternity, paying off your debt. Each level of the competition mirrored one of the 7 circles of hell. So the stakes were incredibly high, very gory, very bloody, great books to read around Halloween, especially because the MMC of that book is like a phantom that lives within walls of the game. It was pretty exciting to read about, I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, just very high stakes. Like I thought the actual premise of the book was great. The premise of this one to me isn't as strong. This competition doesn't take randos that just want to enter in and win a prize. It only has to deal with the Silver family. Genevieve accidentally stumbles in on the one night that these gates are open before they close permanently for the game to start for the year. She ends up having to get married to one of the siblings in here whose name is Rowan in order to tie their lives together so that he can kind of like look out for her and make sure that she doesn't permanently die. Each level, one of the siblings just gets to be the hunter and then hunt the rest of them. I just didn't think it was as creative of a premise, but I did really like Genevieve and Rowan in this as the couple. Fantastical men with shadows. I get it. These are also, just want to say for the record, incredibly spicy. So much so that sometimes I'm like, damn girl, you need to stop doing it. We got to get to the plot. We got to figure this mystery out because I'm scared for you and your well-being. Number 18, Fleabag by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's a play. It's super short to get through, so I would definitely recommend it. If you don't want to read this, fine, just watch the show. They're very consistent. Most of everything that's in here is included in the show. Of course, some extra things were added, some things were taken away, but the gist of it is the same. And I just think Fleabag is a genius character. She is somebody that is so outspoken. She defies all all of the norms that you would expect to be put on a woman. She is sex obsessed, she's a loudmouth, vain. She's a character that just seeks to shock, perform. She is just so uniquely herself. This character is so brilliant. It is so witty, it's so funny. This is very impressive. I would definitely recommend reading it if you haven't. I think I gave this a 4.25 stars. Number 17, we have Just Last Night by Vari McFarlane. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I'm going to be so completely honest, I don't remember much about it. What I do remember is my rating of 4.25 stars has to do a lot with the first half of this book. This is a romance, and I did not know that going in. Hey, should have. I definitely should. Look at the cover. The whole reason that I got put onto this book was from Haley Fan, and I could have sworn she said this author's books are literary fiction books with a subplot of romance. When the romance became a very prevalent part of the story, kind of out of nowhere, in my humble opinion, I just didn't connect. By far, my favorite part about this book was the first half. If you are sensitive to depictions of grief, I would maybe steer clear. In the first half, there is a friend group that our main character is a part of. They're all in their 30s. They've been friends since like high school or college, something like that. And one of them unexpectedly passes away. The scene of our main character finding out that said person has passed away, the scene of her having to like go in and identify the body was so breathtaking. It just was such a beautiful and honest exploration of the ways that the human brain cannot rationalize death. Not even just accepting, but like understanding at a moment's notice the removal of somebody close to you in your life. Like the way that that just upends everything about not only your life, but who you are as a person. A big theme of this also being like, how do we carry on knowing what we know and also being okay with the things that we don't know, or having to like rectify that maybe somebody was different than we thought that they were. It's just like how to carry on throughout grief. That whole exploration was incredibly well done. I loved it. And I also just thought the voice of this author, Vari McFarlane, was so clear. It was so witty. There was so much humor. I wasn't like a top tier fan of the actual romance. Nevertheless, I would recommend it. Number 16, we have Passion Project by London Sperry. Gave this a 4.25 stars. I have a reading vlog of me finishing this on my channel. If you want to see me crying while I finish reading this at 3 a.m. home alone, please feel free to do so. This was a great read. I love our main character Henry in this. He is definitely golden retriever vibes. Our main character is down on her luck. She is grieving. So many books about grief this year. Bennett Taylor should be living the best years of her life, but she's failing miserably. Adrift in NYC, she has no direction and no energy to find one. When Bennett is set up on a first date with Henry Adams, she's drunkenly confesses that she's not ready to love again. In fact, she doesn't feel passion for anything, not pottery, not sports, nothing. Henry offers to help Bennett uncover her passion for life. Every Saturday, they'll try a new activity, as friends, of course. There was a whole moment about the person that she lost at the end of this book that made me sob my eyes out. Honestly, I sobbed harder for that storyline than I did for the storyline between these two characters, although I did love them. I thought this romance was very sweet and endearing. Again, it's another instance of a golden retriever man trying to help a woman through their grief. I just love that. This is another one of those books that has a lot of great locations as well. They go all around New York City. They go to Yankee Stadium, the Edge at Hudson Yards, which is like that big building if you've ever been to New York City that has a platform where you can look out above the rest of the city. Yeah, this is another instance of to be loved is to be fully seen. Number 15 on this list, The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is a book that I gave 4.25 stars, and believe you me, I did not think I was going to give this 4.25 stars. This took years off my life. Years. Just like the misogynist college hockey frat boy talk in this. Oh my god. For most of this book, I was like, just on principle, I cannot give this book higher than like a 3.5 stars. Then we had character growth. And that was something I was supremely not expecting. This is labeled as a spicy hockey college romance, and this is definitely that. I actually love the way that our two characters grew together, not only as a couple, but as friends first. I loved the banter in this. This has such great snappy pacing. I was not expecting there to be like this much depth based on the way that it's like marketed. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but sometimes when I go into like a college hockey romance, I'm just expecting it to be like straight smut and that's about it. I felt like these were characters that exist in a world outside of just the page. Like they are living and breathing and experiencing things. They just felt so fleshed out to me and I just loved them. I love their dynamic. One thing I will say, there is in-depth mentions of sexual assault in this. Sometimes those occur in the middle of spicy scenes. You kind of have to brace yourself when the reliving of traumatic moments pops up in the middle of a spicy scene and then gets resolved and you're expected to just jump into that headspace immediately after. I just want to say I don't feel like they weren't dealt with, but as a reader, sometimes it feels a little bit like whiplash and it makes me feel icky. I do have a little bit of feelings about the way things were brought up in the moments that they were brought up, and I just feel like I wanted to mention that. It does have a content warning on the very first page, so I will say it's not like this book doesn't let you know that this stuff is mentioned, but it was one of the few surprises for me this year where I was like, I did not expect to be into this as much as I was. Then, so funny and random to come after The Deal by Elle Kennedy, we have The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. This I also gave a 4.25 stars. The atmosphere of this book is so strong. I think it takes place in late winter or early spring. You could definitely read this in the fall, which is when I read it. This book isn't like scary by any means, but there are some moments of of this that hit way harder than they did in the movie. I can't tell if it's just because I watched the movie before I read this. I was just picturing all of the insane, like, outdoor academia, chapel, leaves on the ground. Like, it's just the most stunning visuals ever are in that movie. It's like peak fall vibe. I feel like I was just inserting those visuals into the atmosphere of this book as I was reading it, but nevertheless, I think this is so immersive. I love the characters. This is definitely a big ensemble piece. I remember finishing it and I was like, there is a whole lifetime contained within this book. The characters are so fleshed out. Vibes are immaculate. Some of the moments are really unnerving and spooky to read about because you can almost like insert your own visual to the things that are happening. I feel like when you see something in a movie, it may be scary to some people, it may not be to others, but in a book like this, your brain attaches to the words on the page and conjures up its own image. Scene of her like crawling down the staircase, bent over backwards, she like crawls up to this woman's leg and then just like sits there and tugs on her pant leg. It was the most unnerving thing I think I've ever read in a book. I think the characters are super compelling. There's a lot of commentary on religion. I really enjoyed my time reading it. Number 13, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is a book that I gave, I feel like I'm still between like 4 and 4.25 stars. I think I'm confidently just gonna give it a 4. I did not glean everything that I could have from this book. I just read it in my most recent reading vlog if you want to check that out. This is one of the most unique stories I have ever read. It's hard to even think about giving it less than a 4 stars. I don't think I want to anyway. This is clearly an exceptional piece of work. It is so unique. It is so beautifully written. Our protagonist is so well done. This is a book about 40 women who are trapped in an underground bunker, and the youngest prisoner ends up being like the key to their survival. This does not have like an incredibly intense plot structure. This is absolutely 1000% deep character study. Our protagonist is beautiful for that. She only knows the life inside the bunker, so she is able to connect or not connect with so many things. There is so much hope in this book. There's so much despair. There is talks of kinship, of love, of sexuality. My favorite things about this book, when you strip everything away from a human being, when you put them in a situation where they are powerless, essentially, what do we hold on to that makes us feel human? How do we connect with the people around us? We have this need to communicate, to express, laugh, cry, to care. Our main character is such a beautiful example of somebody whose main priority has always been survival and always will be survival. It's definitely a book that I would continue to think about for a very long time, and because it's so short, I could see myself reading it multiple times throughout my life. I definitely didn't love it this much when I was actively reading it, but since finishing it, since having friends who have finished it and talking to them about it, I can appreciate so much. Number 12, Becky Shaw by Gina Gianfrido, which is a play that I did a play reading with some of my friends in an apartment, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had. It was such a good time. Honestly, I think I'm lumping in with my rating of the actual content of the play, the experience that I had while reading it, but I do remember this play just being very crazy. It was a big ensemble piece, which I loved. A ton of dialogue, conflict between just the craziest group of people. One of our characters, Max, the most outlandish, out-of-pocket person. The humor of the play was so good. Relationships were strong and compelling. I absolutely loved it. Number 11, The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I gave this 4.75 stars. This is the third book in the Cruel Prince trilogy. This is a YA enemies to lovers fantasy trilogy. Emphasis on fantasy with a subplot of romance. A lot of these books have to do with the politics of the fantasy world. Our main character, Jude, is a very cunning, ambitious, headstrong individual, constantly trying to outsmart her father, who is like the villain for most of these books. And oh my god, the romance between Cardan and Jude is just so wonderful. Everybody says that The Wicked King is the best book out of the 3 for romance, which is the second book. I personally think that chapter 21 of this rivals all of the yearning that we get in The Wicked King put together. I love Cardan and Jude. I love Cardan and Jude, and the thing I love most is that because it's YA, it never goes past what it needs to. But yet, Holly Black has managed to craft something. It just pulls on your heartstrings. I just got so invested to them and their story and their banter. Cardan is just so, oh my god. He is a prince who puts on this cocky, arrogant front. Jude is probably one of my favorite FMCs that I've read in a fantasy novel thus far. This was such a good time. But again, this is a fantasy first with subplots of romance throughout the 3 books. The crumbs that you do get are worth it. They are so worth it. This book was definitely my favorite out of the trilogy, and I probably would have given it a 5 stars, although I wish we would have gotten just a little bit more. I think the second half just didn't give me everything that I needed it to. I would say the first book, The Cruel Prince, gives cozy fantasy vibes. I feel like it's a good introduction, but it's definitely my least favorite out of the trilogy. I would recommend checking it out. Number 10, we have The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars, which now that I think about it is probably a crazy rating, thinking about like other books that I give 4.5 stars. This was my very first Frida McFadden book. If I have heard anything about that author, it is that her books are bingeable, fast-paced, and they are filled with drama. And that is absolutely how I felt about The Housemaid. The twist that happened around 60% absolutely got me. My jaw dropped in the middle of my break at work while I was reading it. Did not see it coming, but also one thing about me as a reader, I don't really theorize when I read books. I just take the information at face value. There are very few books that I'm so locked in that I'm like, oh my god, I think this is coming. Oh my god, I think this is coming. coming. And you know what? That's a great experience in and of itself. But this one, I was just kind of like getting the information told to me. I will say the third act conflict of the book, I thought we could have seen a little bit more of. We see most of it, but then it wraps up and we're kind of told what ended up happening. Nothing got me as much as the twist did around the 60% mark, but this was just filled with so much drama. It was so fast paced. It was written in the same cadence that my inner voice reads with, if that makes any sense. So it was just like, yes, I'm understanding. And honestly, sometimes that's really nice. Very simple. Sometimes you need an easy read. That moment in time, I enjoyed nothing more. Number 9, The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. 4.75 stars. Really did not think I would care that much about President Snow, but I truly did. I think the book does such a good job showing that he is a person that started off with really good intentions and then was kind of hardened by circumstances around him, and not that he makes choices that are redeemable. So interesting to like see his descent into kind of like this villain role, but also the ways in which he's always had prejudice against other people. Like growing up as a member of the Capitol, he puts on this front to try to be accepted by his peers, simultaneously point out the cruelties that the Capitol commits against those in the district, yet is able to commit the same atrocities himself. I have like deep insecurity. Some of the book was a little bit slow. It's broken up into 3 parts if I remember correctly, and part 3 was a little bit like, oh my god. Also, this book caught me off guard because it was so much more gory than I remember the original trilogy being. It was just so much darker. A lot of the kills that happened, my jaw was just like hanging off of my face. I could not believe that these were YA books, and I know that's so dumb because I know it's the Hunger Games and the whole concept of it is gory and awful and centered around violence. It just really got me, and I just think I love the world of the Hunger Games. Like, I just think that anything that Suzanne Collins writes, I am immediately sat for. Number 8, we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This I recently read in my most recent reading vlog, where I read short books in order to get to my reading goal faster. This book was also a 4.75 stars. Ow. If you want to watch me crying again in a reading vlog, go watch that video. Oh man, did this take me out. I love Charlie. The way that I feel about Charlie is very similar to the way that I feel about Eleanor Oliphant, which I will talk about coming up, don't you worry. Such an endearing protagonist. This is a coming of age story. This is a slice of life book about Charlie going through high school. It is structured as diary entries to a person that we will never learn about. We have no idea who he's writing to. All we really know about his life is what he chooses to share with that person. So many lives shown in this, so many things are tackled in this. Definitely check the trigger warnings. One of the things I thought was done really well in this book was the depiction of like cyclical ruminating thoughts and like panic attacks. One thing that Charlie is struggling with in this book, amongst many things, the inability to get out of his head and get into his own body. And that was one of my favorite things about this book, is because I feel like I very much related to that. Sometimes I'm so caught up about what I'm thinking or feeling about something, or just hyper analyzing things in the moment, that it takes me out of the present. I think this could be so impactful for so many people. It talks about an era that everyone goes through, high school, an experience that for most of us is equally positive and equally not. Just being an adolescent, that time in your life when everything feels like the world is crashing down around you. You're having all these new experiences and you're forging these relationships that have such profound impact on you for the rest of your life, whether in a good way or a bad way. This sucks, and sometimes we treat our friends in shitty ways, or we say shitty things, or we become shitty people during certain eras of our lives. This is all our first time on this earth struggling through it. I love this book. I always say the same thing, and I always talk way too long about it when I bring it up. I loved this book. I don't know why I'm so afraid of giving out 5 stars. I don't know why I will say this is a 4.75 and not a 5, but this is just so unbelievably good. God, I'm gonna have the conundrum again. Is it 5? I don't know. You tell me. God. Number 7, we have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. Oh my god. Look at the tabs of this book. If I had to write a list of all of the MMCs that I have experienced this year, Charlie Florrick probably number 1, first and foremost. I could see Austin Marks from As a Last Resort being very high up there. Dominic Perry from P.S. I Hate You. God. Rowan Silver from Enchantra. Bottom line, Charlie Florrick. I don't know why I'm yelling. Sorry. God, he brings out severe emotions in me. He is cocky and arrogant in all of the best ways. He's very much like Carden in that sense. Everything is a persona to this man. He has a smile worth $1,000,000, ripped to all shreds. The physical and mental portrayal of a golden retriever who secretly doesn't feel like he's enough for people. He doesn't feel like the supporter that he should be. What is this man about? The back describes him as a shameless flirt who manages to make Nan laugh, her grandma, and Alice long to be 17 again. I remember being devastated that this wasn't a 5-star because I just didn't like cry at the end, and I just feel like that's very important to me in a romance book. If a romance is going to be a 5-star, I need to like feel a gut punch. I don't even feel like it was a real structural thing. Once again, I was pulling a Charlie and I was hyper analyzing my own thoughts and feelings about the book so much that it hindered my ability to actually perceive the book well, therefore it affected my rating. Also, this book is about the MMC from Every Summer After that I was talking about earlier, Sam. This is his older brother. Charlie is a side character in Every Summer After, character. This is back in the setting of Barry's Bay, which was already so incredible. I was physically flustered while reading this book. My cheeks would be beet red. He is like that man that singles you out in a crowd with eye contact, immediately gives you butterflies, and you try to like look everywhere away to like get away from his gaze because you just feel so like not uncomfortable, but like uncomfortable in a good way under the pressure of his sights. And then he comes out and he singles you out and he like makes jokes just for you, and like his goal of the night is to get you out of your shell and like make you smirk. You know what I mean? That presence that is just so commanding, direct, that it like makes you sweat. The way that this man is written just jumps out of the page, steals my heart, and that's all I have to say. Number 6, Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Let's talk about it. Another example of, hey, you see the tabs? You see the tabs? This is another one of those books that I am grappling with. Is it a 5-star? Am I just too terrified to finally give something a 5-star, so I gave it a 4.75 as a cop-out? Maybe. This is probably one of my favorite protagonists I have ever read. She is so unique. Singular. Trauma is a big part of her story. There is something that has happened to her that has entirely shaped her worldview. It colors every interaction that she has. She is so funny. This book is so funny without even trying. This character is blunt, objective. There is a friendship in this that I thought was going to be a romance. I thought there was going to be a subplot of romance in this book, not the main thing. It turns into a friendship that is like the best possible thing for it. I'm so happy with the way that it turned out. It is the most deeply impactful relationship to our main character. It makes her feel seen and loved and valued, is able to bring Eleanor out of her shell, prioritize her own needs, and just feel like a normal human. Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying. Oh my god, what's going on? I think that this book could be so relatable. Maybe they aren't universally relatable, but I felt so seen with certain aspects of this book. I just am obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with her and her thought processes. I think she is so incredibly interesting. This book made me laugh out loud, cry, and it just made me like yearn to give her a hug. Just make sure she's okay for the rest of her days. I just want you to read it. It's not that long. It is mainly just a character study at the end of the day, but a lot of things do get revealed. Moving on, this year I did a reread of Funny Story. I read it here on this channel. I'm not going to talk too much about it because you already know how I feel, and if you want to know how I feel, genuinely go and watch that video because I break down all of my thoughts and I need to stop talking. This was like a 5-star reread experience for me. The first time I read this was in May of 2024 for book club, and I gave it a 4 stars. I was so devastated that I didn't connect to it more because the book that I had read before that was Happy Place, which was an immediate 5-star. I think this has overtaken the top spot for my favorite Emily Henry read, which is bonkers cuckoo bananas to say. The way that I connected to Miles and Daphne this time around was just immaculate. It was so wonderful. It was everything that I needed. I think I was in a slump and it just like completely took me out of it. I loved their banter. I love where they came from. This is another book set in Michigan. Hey, thank you Emily Henry for giving a Michigander girl at heart an impeccable setting to read about. They're just like two unlikely friends that meet each other in a crazy circumstance. They end up being roommates. They're both suffering from heartbreak, and the way they learn to love each other is insane, and I just love them, and I love the side characters of this book. If you're gonna start with Emily Henry, please start with this one. This is insane, and I think you will love it. Now we're getting into our top 4 books. If you have watched up until this point so far, I absolutely love and appreciate you. We're gonna start off with The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This was my very first 5-star read of the year back in February. Fun fact about me, I used to figure skate growing up, so I mean, like, girl, I was nowhere near a child prodigy, but I feel like this was just a fun topic to read about in general because I enjoy consuming figure skating content. My favorite thing about this book is the structure. So this is a documentary screenplay. In between each chapter where we get our main character Katarina's perspective, we get script pages from the documentary. So there's like interviews from past competitors. So many people say that this book reminds them of a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I fully agree. This did give me Evelyn Hugo vibes, which is a book that I also gave like a 10 out of 10. My favorite part about this book was the drama, especially the last 100 pages of this book. Oh my god. I love a book that makes me feel. If a book makes me feel something, whether I gasp, I laugh out loud, cry, I sweat profusely like I did with this one, I'm already gonna rate it high. The amount of books that I'm reading, not everything is a hit, and so when something genuinely manages to impact me, I already love it. If I'm honest, there are some parts with the male main character of this book, Heath Rocha, that I probably wanted a little bit more from. There were some moments in the last like 30 pages that were a little bit rushed. Like, is this a perfect book? No. Did I have the most impeccable time reading it? Yes. Like the last 100 pages specifically, like I said, thank god I was home alone while I was reading it because I probably would have looked like an insane person in front of my boyfriend. It was too good. It was catching me off guard. Scandal after scandal. They're like Olympic level, world championship level ice dancer. They're a pair that went from nothing together all the way up until that level. They have this deep rooted bond with each other. It gives like reality TV show vibes. Keyword toxic. They are incredibly toxic, but so good. The next book that I want to mention is a book that I very recently finished, The Women by Kristen Hanna. huh? This was my first Kristen Hanna book, so hey, I have entered the chat and I have a few things to say. I honestly still feel like I'm emotionally recovering from the damage that this book inflicted upon me. I buddy read this with a friend, and since discussing our final thoughts, immediately upon finishing this, minimum 4.5 stars. Her, not so much. She gave it 3-star max. After having some discussions about the things that she wishes that this book included, I can say I thought it would have been so interesting if we had spent some time in the lives of the other army nurses, but I think at the end of the day, I cannot put aside the fact that this book hurt me. I did read it during the time of the month, if you know what I mean. I feel like this was emotional blackmail. I think I'm gonna stick with 4.5 stars. Since talking to her, it has gone down. This was a crazy way to be introduced to an author. Do I think that the last 100 pages of this book gives you the most insane whiplash you've ever experienced? Yes. And I do feel like that's part of why my rating went down a little bit, because things happen so rapidly. You cannot sit in any one feeling for too long before the world explodes in another way. And some of it is just like the most traumatic shit ever to be thrown in here. And it's like, oh my God, can our character experience love? And God forbid a good time? The answer is no. The amount of times I had to shut this book, get up off of the bed and take a lap, upwards of 10 times. This book took my heart and put it into a hydraulic press. Any single time that this book got even remotely slow, something happened where I was immediately invested again. And I just have to say that I was theorizing before one of these crazy reveals happened. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna call it. Like, this is what's gonna happen. This is the direction we're heading. And it did. And I still was caught off guard. Like, I managed to guess something, and yet I was still deeply impacted by it. I audibly was sobbing. Like, I need you guys to know. It actually made me angry. I was pissed a little bit at Kristen Hanna for putting me through the emotional ringer like this. Steeped with historical accuracies where you feel like you are in Vietnam with her. You can feel the heat and the sweat dripping down her back while she's in the OR trying to save this person's life. I read to feel transformed, seen, connected with. I long to empathize and connect with different characters. When I'm able to do that, consider me tapped out. Okay, our second to last book, Discontent by Beatrice Serrano. This is another book that I read in my most recent reading vlog. This is a debut novel that is so incredibly impressive. This is about an Ativan addicted, YouTube obsessed, depressed woman living in Madrid who works in middle management at a marketing agency. So depressed with her soul-sucking mundane existence, a person who operates out of survival and does like questionable things in order to just get through her day. The voice of this novel is so clear, so witty. I laughed out loud so many times. I felt for our protagonist, resonated with her. There's so much commentary in this book on like the atrocities of corporate life, about how we're all replaceable, are stuck in these cycles where we feel like we are forced to slave away until the day that we die, or financial stability, the culture of success. It is only 177 pages. Please just consider picking this up. I don't know if you'll like it, but I took to this so much. A person who's confronted with this life that she has created for herself. She's just grappling with the potential of what she thought she was going to accomplish in life. This book is depressing in the sense that it's so galvanizing. For that, it is so incredibly brilliant. It is time to talk about my favorite book of the entire year, Educated by Tara Westover. If you would like to see me, again, cry on camera, it's a theme. It's a theme. All of my favorite books that I've ever read, I usually sob. While I may not actively think about this book every single day of my life, I feel like there was a moment before I read it and then everything after. It was my very first memoir. So often had to remind myself it was not fiction. The person that lived this life is very much walking around the world today. It was just baffling to me the amount of things that happened to her and the way that she persevered through them, the things that she's experienced, the treatment that she has undergone. The family dynamics in that book are insane, specifically father-daughter relationship, the discussions of toxic masculinity, low-key religious psychosis, the way that she was able to come out of that and have this thirst for knowledge and forge her own set of values, knowing that she has to do it. Tara Westover is just inspirational. So much commentary on the imposing of religious beliefs on other people. Certain people use that as a means of control. They actually think that their will or their interpretation of God's will is better than everyone else's, and they use it to shame the religious guilt that is discussed in that book. Oh my God, so eye-opening. Her family is living and breathing to this day. I would never run into them because why would I ever run into them? But I might run into them. I want to throw hands with half of her family members for the way that they treated my poor girl. Educated by Tara Westover is by far my favorite read of the entire year. I loved it so incredibly much, and I will think about it forever. Also, the audiobook was incredible as well. I simultaneously listened to that and read along. Oh my gosh, we made it! I think I literally talked for 7,801 billion hours. If you have made it this far into the video, you deserve a kiss on the mouth. Not by me, but from someone, and I hope that you get that very soon. These were the top 25 books, 27, that I read in 2025, and I cannot wait to see what 2026 holds. Hopefully, a ton more reads that reach into the depths of my soul, bring out my heart, and either kiss it or stomp on it. Who knows? I hope you accomplish your reading goal for the year. If you didn't, like me, that is a-okay. If If you read even one book this year, you are doing a good job. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you all very, very soon.